Riley, how's it going? Welcome
Good. It
to
is going good, Matt.
welcome to the Expert Circle podcast here. Coming at us from I don't want to get this wrong. You are
Corinda.
uh not Shenandoah. Shenandoah is close, but your closest town there's Clarinda in Iowa. So we were just talking off camera, kind of right in there in that pocket between Kansas City, Omaha, Des Moines area. But yeah, excited to have you on the podcast, hear about RC tree services and your journey. So I'll let you dive in. And yeah, how'd you get started in the biz?
Well, actually, I guess I graduated early 2007. I had got all my credits. I was ready to get out of there. I didn't play sports a lot, so which is what kind of led me into the tree service. Um,
What school
was
did you go
I
to? What were you
What's
studying?
that?
What school did you go to and what were you studying?
I actually started in Bedford, and we were over there until 2005. And then my dad bought a farm, bought a bigger farm, and we had to move closer to Clarinda. So we lived in rural Clarinda. So I'm a farm kid, I guess, a native Iowa farm kid, which really helps. We used to be a lot more, here and there, and you could catch a good farm kid, and you know that saying, like if you can nab onto one of those as an employee or a worker. They're kind of a jack of all trades. They can back pickups, hook up tractors, drive. They know all their tools. They're really getting hard to come by now. And my dad had four boys. I am number two, and all of us have gone on to be somewhat some sort of successful. Two of us own our own business. The oldest one, he runs a life flight base in Quincy, Illinois.
Okay.
I run the tree service. My brother owns and operates a huge implement blade company. They build blades for Kinsey and Yetter and John Deere and Case. And then
Wow.
Ross, my youngest brother, he worked for me, and he went on to be a Mid America lineman.
Uh,
So,
a Mid-America lineman?
yep, he's a lineman now. Yep.
So what is that? He's working in a factory? What is it? Dumb question, but
No, he would be like Mid America would be Iowa's power,
okay.
and so he's a power lineman.
Wow.
Cruises on, fixes poles, transformers, lines, all that kind of stuff. So
Interesting.
he's made it to the top. That was where my kind of goal was to be a lineman, and I never got there. I got I
Does he have
got
to, like, climb way up there and the big
well, I mean, you started as an apprentice and you work your way up, and usually you start somewhere else. Like I heard a guy earlier talk about working for Asplin on here, and that's absolutely correct. You can start as a tree guy at Asplin and work your way up, and then there'll become an opportunity to go work at Mid America, and it's kind of hard to get in actually in Mid America. Um, and they like to pull from their own entities first. So like there's a power plant in Omaha. If a job comes up, that goes on the service board at Omaha, and they'll pull guys straight from the power plant right there, or they'll pull guys from Asplin before they just go out and hire somebody off the streets.
Yep, yep.
So
Wow, interesting. Okay, so
so back to it.
yeah, back to
And to
hiring. Have you ever I think farmers, guys that grow up there are, jack of all trades. Do you ever you gotta get on, I think, Farmers Only, this dating website. You can find some good farmers. That was my joke. I wanted to get slide in there.
That is right. That is
Anybody
true.
listening, that's the best way to hire people is to, yeah, troll guys on farmers only dating sites.
There you go. There you go. Um, so I graduated early, and I thought I wanted to be a diesel mechanic. So I went to Omaha, and I worked at Volvo Truck Center for a while, and it just got to be super long days. I'd have to leave at 4 o'clock in the morning and get there at 7, and then I liked overtime, so I'd work till 7 o'clock at night. Then, I'm fresh out of high school. I'd come home and I'd hang out with my friends until 10 o'clock or midnight. And I did that for so long and it wasn't working.
Sure.
So I started working construction, building houses. And that was just for a neighbor down the road. Again, I'm a farm kid. I said, hey, I really liked the diesel mechanics, I'm not gonna lie. It
Yep.
really intrigues me, and I still do it today. But the long hours and it wasn't working, and I was chasing my wife to be now, and that was a strain, you'd go work all day and put in 12 hours and then come home and try to make time for your friends and your family and your girlfriend, and
Rub off the diesel.
oh my god, it wasn't working. It wasn't working, so I started doing construction, built houses for about a year. I really enjoyed that. But this opportunity came up, where I started working for Clark's Tree Service, and during that time, right out of high school, I'd lost my license for reckless driving, and I'd gotten an OW at one point and lost my license again, and just stupid stuff. I was really, really ornery in high school and, got in all kinds of trouble, and
Sure.
my dad didn't even know what to do with us. Well, there's 4 boys, and we all were kinda fighting for attention, and I was the one that would for sure get caught every time and was for sure the one that he worried about at night. Um, so I got to start working for Clark's Tree Service, in 2008. So, and it went from there, and I learned a lot. Jason Long, kind of took me under his wing, and that was their hired guy. And so it was the father, the owner, Troy Clark, wonderful man, and then Cody, which would be the son, and he was my age in my class, really good cat. And then Jason Long, and Jason Long just took me under his wing and started teaching me all kinds of stuff. And I'll never forget my first day. He handed me a saw. He's like, "Hey, fill this up," and I
Yeah.
ran over to the bucket truck and I filled it full of gas, and I ran back and handed it to him. He's like, "You didn't fill it with oil, did you?" And I was like, "No, where's that at?" And he's like, "It's the other cap." So I started out, I mean, green.
And how old were you?
Um, I was 18 or just turning 19 at the time,
Yeah.
and
Cool.
um, so I put in, and I learned a lot from Jason and Cody and Troy. And I will say this: Troy Clark was what you would call an honest businessman. He
Mhm.
would he would look at a tree. He's very fair priced. Sometimes you don't bid the job, you bid the customer. Um, you have your vets, you have different kinds of people, you have elderlies that sometimes you got to bid the job and not the tree, and bid the person and make it work for them. And you got to go up and think, what would I want to pay for this tree to have it removed, have it trimmed? And he built a relationship with people like you
Yeah.
wouldn't believe. And
Yeah.
just everybody loved him and everybody talked to him, and just a
Yep.
great guy. So,
Yep.
and he was small. So one crew tree service. Um, and I worked for him for 5 years, and I just couldn't get ahead or get above because Cody, the son, was going to take it over eventually. There was
Sure.
no doubt about it. Cody was going to take over. Um, and I had learned a lot there. And sometimes I wish I hadn't left, but at the same time, it took me to here. So I went to work for Green Tree, which was in Red Oak, Iowa, about 45 minutes north of me,
Okay.
northeast of me, west of me, sorry. And I worked for Scott Wilson, which owned the Green Tree Company. And they had 5 crews when I got on. There was 2 residential crews, which would be your homeowner, you're around Iowa, the southwest corner of Iowa. We serviced, all the schools and nursing homes and just local customers. And then he had 3 crews out in Nebraska, which you know what Asplund is. Green Tree is the Asplund of Nebraska. They run 3 to 5 crews now out there doing line clearance and distribution clearance, and I've worked both sides of that. I went out for a year, and cleared lines and cleared in front with an excavator and a mower, and, you wouldn't believe it, but the sandhills in Nebraska, God, they're like mountains. Like, we had to rope up and down some of these to be able to cut pine trees off, and it was nuts. I mean, it just I'm glad I did all this and got the experience. And what I think these young guys do, and I'm not trying to steer them away from getting into business on their own, but the best thing I could have ever done, I think in my mind, was I worked for one of the smaller guys around here, and I worked for one of the bigger guys around here.
It's huge.
And I worked for both of them for 5 years each. and I put 10 years in before I went out on my own.
Wow.
And, no matter what, if I was on the job site, and I did this too to gain my father's attention the whole time, I made sure I was the hardest working guy there. I would break my back, break myself, put myself in danger. They had to pull the reins back all the time, like, "Riley, hey,
Yeah.
you're gonna get hurt. Calm
Yeah.
down. We've got all day," you know, and, I just tried to be the hardest working guy there at all times, and after that 10 years, then when I did go in and start doing it on my own, I was a shoo-in. Like, it didn't get busy overnight, the first 6 months and the first year was a struggle,
Sure,
and
sure.
you just wondered if you were gonna make it work, but it slowly
Yeah.
kept trickling in, and people kept hearing about, that I had gone out on my own, and they're like they would even call in to Greentree and say, "Hey, could you send Riley's crew?" Because so I went right to Greentree, worked a year, and they were like, "Hey, we think you got it. We're gonna
Yep.
give you your own crew." And they gave me my own residential crew to run, and heck, we kept the equipment at my house, and the guys ran under me, and I'd be back at the shop once a week, and, TJ Clark would hand me he would be the foreman, and he oversaw all the residential, and Scott would oversee everything out in Nebraska, and that's a different life out there in Nebraska, like, you're talking millions and millions of dollars worth of stuff and contracts, and the residential's a lot simpler, a lot easier. Um, I wouldn't say it's slower paced, but it's probably more relaxed, I would think, than the
So what were
line.
the different lessons you learned in your first job there? Empathy with clients, dealing with clients individually, and then doing some of the more commercial jobs, maybe more kinda systems? Well, I don't know, what were some of those different lessons you learned in both of those that serve you now?
Well, what really served me, was working with the different people. So I got to work with Jason Long, which is he's a veteran, and he taught me a lot, and he taught me some simple roping, and just he taught me a lot of the basics and the fundamentals, and so did Troy, and so did Cody. And then you go to Greentree, and Greentree's pulled people away from Asplin and Davies and Wrights, and you get all these other walks of life. There's 30 guys there, and then you start learning stuff from each one of those 30 guys, and and I took a little bit from everybody and formed my own way to cut, and man, it was really cool to see the what different riggings and different roping techniques, different techniques of loading. We used a tractor and a dump truck uh, for Clark's, and we use a skid loader and a dump trailer, which doesn't require. It does now. It requires a CDL now. It didn't then, but um, the dump trailer and the pickups seems to be the cat's meow in certain situations, and there's certain situations the tractor is better because the tractor can pick up more and higher, and but the
Sure,
tractor doesn't fit in certain places. So,
sure.
um, yeah, I've learned a lot from working with different people, and you need to not. There's different ways to skin a cat. That's how you say it. There's three different ways to skin a cat every time. It's not just a one time. This has got to be it job, and you're constantly learning too in trees. If you say if you say you're at the top, and I'd like to think I'm there. I've done it for 10 years. Well, I've done it for 10 years for somebody else and 9 for myself. So, um, I learn something new every day, I bet. And I've
Sure.
learned some hard lessons, I've learned some easy lessons, I've learned lessons twice, 3 times over, and
Yeah.
it's just a you're constantly learning, and, there's constantly different ways, and the technology is on our side. We keep getting better and better ways to get to things, and to help preserve your body, make the equipment work instead of your body. Because I've literally broke my body down doing this, and I've
Yeah.
had double carpal tunnel surgery. I've had neck surgery and back surgery twice already. So, if you're not into the pain, trees are definitely not for you. But it's
Yeah.
a
How have you learned how to take care of your body? I mean, if it's not working, what's your
rope. You pull that rope instead of I really like to cut. It's way fast to just cut and grab and swing. Now the Asplin guys and all that, they're, 2 hands on the saw at all times. I'm a 1 hand on the saw, and I'm swinging limbs over roofs all the time. I'd love to send you a video of how we do that, but, um, I usually do a lot of it by hand and not ropes, and I'd be swinging stuff way too big and yanking my shoulders and my elbows and
Yeah,
wrists and back, and, um, I learned to use a rope more later on in these later years. I'm 37 years old now, and I'm starting to feel it, and I'm
sure.
still the main cutter for our company, and I go out every day with the guys and
Yeah,
cut every day, and I usually get the first couple trees on the ground. I jump in the skid loader and start cleaning up, and then if we have a secondary cutter, he goes off and starts trimming or cutting in front of us, and then we try to catch up.
yeah. So, making the transition, so you have, like, an insane amount of technical experience working for these 2 companies, learning from all these different guys. Jumping into your own biz, what were the learning curves there just in terms of, maybe some business logistics, what were these new lessons that you needed to learn, just about, the nuts and bolts of invoicing, running business, I don't know, payroll, some of that kind of stuff, taxes, all the not fun stuff behind the scenes. Clearly you like to be, you know, up in the tree and enjoy that. Is that something that you've still a learning process, or what are the lessons you've learned now 9 years in the biz?
Um, so the when it comes to the paperwork and the taxes, I used to do some of it. Now I wasn't amazing at it, and my wife, Stephanie, she works with us now. We got so busy she had to quit her job. She was a LPN and worked at a nursing home, which she loved. She did not wanna come do this, and she came and did it. She kinda started to enjoy it. And she does all of it, all the paperwork, all the taxes, you know. Now look over the shoulder and watch and check, and she kinda shows me what's going on, and I'm really good with keeping numbers and remembering numbers and remembering jobs in my head,
Yep,
but I can't do all the paperwork, so you need to build a team, and you need to have, um, that team behind you and have a clear goal set of where you wanna go. And no matter where you wanna go, to get to that goal, that's not where you slow down or stop. You can't slow down or stop when you get to that goal. And probably one of the most important decisions a man will make in his life would be his wife. If your wife is with you till the end, 100%, like, I can't preach that enough. A good woman will take you all the way up and help you get to where you wanna go. I hate to say this, but a bad woman will drag you down. I've got some employees and some friends that just have the talent and have it, but they just can't. The woman wants to run the show, and sometimes that battle kind of fights itself. But as far as what I learned and what I did different as soon as I went into business for myself was the amount of respect that I gained for Troy Clark and Scott Wilson is just unimaginable. To put up with all the employees and all the customers and all that. I will go back. I'm telling you, Scott is one of the best bosses I've ever had, and so was Troy. And to do that, and to the sacrifice that they make and that they still do today, to keep their stuff running, it's just mountains of respect to those kind of guys. Now, Troy taught me how to be an honest businessman and form relationships with clients, and Scott taught me how to make money and how to bid jobs and how to be efficient. And I've taken all those things and applied them to my business today. And then I took it a step further because I've worked with I've worked with Jason Long since then, and he's actually worked for me a little bit, and he's the one that taught me, And he's like, "Where did you learn that? You
sure.
cut twice as fast as me back in the day." And I was like, "Well, I appreciate that, and I really have tried." And we've got it down to a almost a science now. I know where I'm the best at, I know where my guys are the best at, and a lot of times, the boss would want to be going out running bids, and they'll get to help get the crew started and then they're off. Well, that's just not me. I'm there the whole day. I run my bids after 3 o'clock. So we start the day at I start my day at 6 o'clock in the morning, at least. I go out and I grease equipment, get everything fueled up, I'm ready to go. The guys show up, we jump in the trucks and we roll out. And we will work and I'll help the crew and we'll cut till 3 o'clock. And at
Yep.
3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, depending on where we're at, we'll
Yeah.
quit and I'll go run my bids
Yep.
from 4 to 7, 4 to 8, depending on how far out I am. And um it gives your guys a respect for you that you're not just stepping back watching. Now the goal would be, to step back and do that, but I don't know if I ever want to get that big. I've worked for the big guys and I've worked for the little guy, and I just want to be somewhere in the middle. I could run two crews, and we have ran two crews, and right now we're just running one crew. It's wintertime, it's slow, and it'll pick back up in the summer. But I would never want more than two crews. Hats off to Scott Wilson for doing it. That's not where I'm at. I'm perfectly happy and at where I'm at. We're still growing, and we plan to diversify a little bit and do some dirt work and some other stuff, but I just don't wanna have to manage that many people, if that makes sense. Don't put that much stress on you if you don't have to.
Yep,
So,
interesting, and you might maybe have better margins because 'cause you're doing a lot of the work yourself, so there's some profit in there, maybe a little less overhead. Um, yeah, very
my
cool.
brother ran a crew for us, and he did a wonderful job, but he just wasn't as fast as me,
Yep,
and he's one of the hardest working guys
yep,
that I've ever had. His name is Ross. So he the first year he worked for me, he was just like me. He had a point to prove, a chip on his shoulder, and he was gonna prove it. He literally worked himself into heat exhaustion, within, like, the first 3 months, and we had to almost set him down and say, "Hey, you need to slow down, man. You're
yep,
doing great.
yeah,
I'm impressed with you no matter what you do. I love you. You're my brother. Don't kill yourself at this."
sure,
And, he ran his own crew, but he slowed way down, and he's not as fast a cutter as I am. By the time and this is on me too, but by the time the end of the day, after a year when we summons everything and looked over the tags and looked over the numbers, like, we usually push, like, 1.2, 1.3 million in a year with one crew. We did, I think, 1.4, 1.5 with Ross's crew, and we added another 125,000 in maintenance and repairs from that year. Like, you're gonna drive over a sidewalk and crack a sidewalk here and there, crack a driveway, stuff happens to the boom trucks, you hit a TV cable or power
sure,
line or something. It's usually not they're taking down the power lines. They never took down the power lines with a tree.
yeah,
It's the back of the bucket, guys. You gotta pay attention to where you're swinging, and they'd rub one or hit one or something on the
yeah,
back, and, oh my
yep,
gosh, they had a couple problems with like that, but good
yeah,
guys. I've had some really good guys and had some not so good guys, working with us, and,
yep,
um, it's just like I said, you're constantly learning, and we learned that at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it to have the extra employees and run the 2 crews when we were so much more efficient with 1 crew and 4 guys, and, I would be running ragged because I would have to work till 10, 11 midnight on equipment to keep all the equipment going, and it wasn't worth it, so we scaled down to 1 crew, and we brought our circle in of how far we'd work. So anything over an hour, we've gotten to the point now where we just tell customers we don't go that far anymore. We kinda stay out of the big cities, and we stay a little more local, and we focus on our local customers. We don't storm chase. We literally just focus on and try to be the best in our area, and
yep,
it's proved itself. Like, I'm flattered that we've won the best of the Midwest 7
yeah,
years, I think it is now.
okay, awesome,
Yep, and I'm just flattered, and I think it goes back to I literally try to treat every customer like they're mine, they're my
yep,
family,
yep,
and I always tell them, and that's almost my catchphrase is I'm gonna do it as if it were my own, you know?
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
try to go at every job like it is my own because I want that satisfaction and I want someone to see it and be like, "That's Riley's work,"
yeah.
you know?
So I think you hit on this, being efficient, is really important. Some people are just always in growth mode and they're not necessarily super profitable. So yeah, that's interesting. And so now you're not running 2 crews, just 1, you're saying?
We're just running 1 with 4 guys. So with 2 crews, you usually run, 2 crews, 3 guys each, so you'd run 6 guys.
Yep. So
And we
you
found we made
2 crews, you would need to maybe just be doing estimates all day, and you wouldn't
right.
be able to be on the job site,
I
basically.
would need to be doing if I would have to step back. If I found the right cutters and the right guys motivated to do it, I
Yep,
would absolutely run 2 crews and I would have, 2 foremans and I would do bids and
yep.
I would do the mechanic side. So we save ourselves
But then you're
tons
paying
and tons of
but then
money
you're paying
doing
2 foremen, so you have to factor that in. So you're paying 2 foremen, so it's not double the profit necessarily because you got more overhead.
yep, yep.
Um, so it might be a little bit more, profit obviously, but, then it's maybe just
Yeah, if you found the right guys, you could for sure do it. I've had some really good guys dropped in my plate, and they keep going on to bigger and better things.
yeah,
So
yeah.
my 3 best guys, um, have gone on to Mid America or some kind of power line company, and I can't be mad at that. I'm just so proud of them.
Sure, sure.
Ross, my brother, went on to do it. Rio Woodard did, and
Yep,
we had another kid take off. His girlfriend, got in at a college, and she was gonna be a vet tech, and he chased her, and,
yep, yep.
he told me that, that we're moving to Kansas, and I said, "I understand." And I said, "What are
Sure,
you gonna do
sure.
down there?" He's like, "I'm gonna build mailboxes." And I was like, "You're gonna
Yeah,
what? You're gonna
that's
what?" And a guy called me that owned a tree service down there, and
mhm,
he said, "What do you think of Jordan?" I was like, "You better hire him." I said, "Do you understand how much money I'm losing when he walks out the door?" I said, "This would be the best thing you could ever do." He
yeah,
called me about 2 months later, and he said, "This kid works circles around my guys." I was like, "I'm telling you." I said, "He is awesome." And we have that high energy, um, and we work really fast, and we lose a bunch of guys that we went through 12 this year, and
mhm,
these high schoolers get on, and they're like, "Oh, we didn't come to rake. We just wanna drive the trucks and the skid loaders. We don't actually wanna do any work." And we're like,
yeah,
"That's not it." I just
yeah,
always point at 'em. I'm like, "You have to work harder than my wife." I
yeah,
said, "If my wife worked harder than you," which she gets down with it, and, "if she outworks you, you're not gonna last very long here." And once they figure out that pace, they're like, "Nah, I don't wanna live this lifestyle." And I'm like, "It's hard work." And I said, "If it sucks,
yep.
you're doing it right. You are
How do you
absolutely doing it right."
so, right, how do you balance, you got I'm hearing that you're, like, have some techniques and you're able to, uh, swing the trees out, maybe not do ropes as much, be super fast. How do you balance safety with that? And, what's your approach to that?
So, um, as far as safety wise, me and the ground guys have really gotten good. If I'm over here cutting, you need to be over here cutting. You know, and then we'll do a lot of swapping where I'll be cutting on this side of the tree. I get a bunch down that needs to be cut up. I basically look down and they're looking at me and we swap sides. And it's not always talking and visual or I'm not actually telling them what to do, but we literally make eye contact and we know but we're making eye contact and nodding our heads that we're going to, we're swapping sides or swapping, you set up on 2 different trees. You can be cutting branches off of this and they're not going to load in the trailer at 20 foot long. Very good. They're going to stack up quick. So they're over there cutting them into about, 10 foot, 5 foot sections, depending on how big they are. And I swing to the other side of the boom truck. We just work on opposite sides. We try to set our road cones out and get a really good, especially you're working over sidewalks and your signage and everything. You want everything set out so no one's driving underneath you, and they will drive underneath you. You have to be watching everything. You got to have eyes in the back of your head, bird's eye view on everything, and we've had people, and this is no kidding, drive around the cop car that was blocking the road on on the sidewalk and back around at where we were working. And the cop was like, "What's going on?" And he took off to pull him over, and we're like, what was that?" You know? Just crazy stuff you'll see, but, um, as far as safety goes, you keep your equipment up to date. Um, we have Altec go through our boom every year. Matt Jones comes up and, he'll check everything, dialect test everything. Like I said, I've gotten into I've gotten into power lines myself. I got into a three-phase wire one time, trimmed a whole tree, trimmed the whole thing, topped it, did everything. Had a branch sticking down. I went to grab it. I grabbed it. I don't know what I was doing. This is the last branch. There's one stuck in the tree. I'd already folded down. Got back up, came back, laid right against the one of the hot of the three phases, and it melted a three-quarter inch U-shaped chunk out of the cylinder. Took it right out. I mean, just blew it. It sounded like a welder about that close to your ear. And accidents do happen, but the right safety equipment, your boom needs to be dialect tested. If you run a bucket uh, insulator, it's a poly liner that goes in, that's worth another like 10,000 volts of protection. And like I could go up and I wouldn't suggest doing it, but you should be able to touch three phase with your hand and nothing conduct. Like it could touch your neck, your head, anything. It will not conduct to the ground, and that's what the whole Altec thing is about. And you're checking all your hydraulics too. The last thing you can afford to do is fall out of the air and kill yourself. You're worth nothing to your family if you die. I shouldn't say it that way, but you know what I mean. Like they're kind of relying on you. We want to get through every day safe.
Yep, yep,
At the end of the day, you got to realize that trees are one of the most dangerous jobs I think you could have. Like if you Google that, I think deep sea fishing's number one, and anything to do with arbustry and forestry is number two for most dangerous work. And we've had some accidents, and right here in Southwest Iowa, I think we have one person die a year in the tree service. There's a local one that just folded up out of Essex. He fell out of the bucket. He was propped up against the limb, and his cable snapped, and it just dumped him right out of the bucket. He landed, and his femurs went up through his torso. He landed feet down, and he bled to death. Like,
wow,
it's a dangerous job, and people don't give it credit or think about it, but cut yourself, you can get hit.
yep,
Um, and I've never had I've been hit quite a few times, and it's never stuff on the ground or anything like that that gets you. Mine has always been cutting a tree over, doing the bottom cut, and it's something behind you that gets caught in another tree. This tree falls and pulls something out,
yep,
and I've gotten hit quite a few times that way. And so now, if we're cutting a tree over and they're tangled to anybody else, we have somebody's spotting, somebody's pushing it with the loader. And I've learned from, like I said, from my mistakes of getting whacked and breaking an arm on a tree that came down, and crazy stuff. It was just
yeah,
and and then you got to build that team behind you too. So like I wouldn't be as successful as I am if I hadn't have worked for 10 years for somebody else, and I made a relationship with the guy that serviced our bucket trucks, Matt Jones, and we're still really great friends today. And I formed relationships with customers and mechanics that worked on the stuff that still today help me work on my stuff. And I would not be successful if it wasn't for the network of people and friends that you have helping you. No one can do this on their own.
yep,
So
yep, yep. I can
yeah,
hear that, and you're calling out, giving shout outs to all the, guys that have come up along the way. I can tell that relationship's really important to you. And you run your team, like a professional sports team. I've coached and played sports at high level. And, when you're so synced up that with just eye contact, you guys are moving together, that's like, and that's fun to be a part of too as a man, like there's something in us that wants to, or anybody, be part of something that's, so efficient and moving at such a high level of excellence,
Yep. Well,
yeah,
and when we ran 2 crews, there was a point where I was so running so ragged and so tired that I didn't look forward to every day. And, right now, I have my wife and Logan and, like, Dakota Reefling, or I've got a couple guys, that come on in the summertime and help. And, I get excited to go to work knowing that Logan and my wife are gonna be there because they know what to do, and I don't have to talk to them. And, always, Logan helped me. So Logan helped me at Green Tree, and when I got on, I worked maybe a year, and he needed a job. He was working for my dad, and farming's part time. You work, in the spring and in the fall really hard, and through the winter sometimes, but it's not a full time gig. Farming is, or, farming's tough right now. Actually, prices suck, but he wasn't getting enough hours, so he came to work for Green Tree and worked under my crew, and we think on the same wavelength. And if you can work with your best friend every day, um, that's and Logan is like he worked with me at Green Tree and he helped me get my own one started, but he's worked for me on and off. He's never worked for me full time years on end because he wants to run a semi truck and that's what he loves and you can't blame the guy. But I don't even have to talk to him. We can literally make eye contact and like what you're saying. So I'll get to a point where I'm like, that's a little tall. I think I might need a rope. And I'll turn around and bring the boom down. He's holding the rope. He's just
yeah,
down there holding the rope. And I'm like, God,
yeah,
I love you. You got exactly
yeah,
what I need in your
yeah,
hands. And um, that really matters a lot. And I guess back to how I know we're jumping around here and I'm sorry, but back to how I got started. While I was working for Clark's Tree Service, and this is what you young guys need to understand is I had another job because I was racing motocross full time and I was doing the trees. So I was burning the candle on both ends. And then to support that, I was working for Clark's Tree Service for I started at $10 an hour and by the time I was done 5 years later I was making like 22.50. But I couldn't make it swing and my wife was working at the nursing home, it was just a CNA when we did that. Actually, she was in school for 2 more years before she did that. And I was going out plumbing for Troy's brother, and his name is Craig Clark. So, I was working for him on the side, and I'd go out there evenings and weekends and, go help him plumb new houses and run septic, systems and literally digging in people's shit. What a
yeah,
great time?
yeah,
But you gotta be willing to get down and dirty and do that and, to meet your goals, and I'm so glad that I worked for him, and I helped him for 9 years before I started my own business, and then when it came time, you know, I didn't have the money, and I had some, and I sold my dirt bikes, I sold my side-by-sides that I had then, I sold my camper, the only thing I kept was 1 diesel pickup, and Craig's like, "Okay, I'll help you do this," and he goes, "I'll go get a loan, put the mortgage on the farm, and I will help you." Because when I got started, my dad, and my family was like, "Riley, are you sure you wanna do this? Do you think you can actually make it go? There's already so many tree services going. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a long road," and it has been. Craig was like, "You can do this. You can absolutely do this. I have faith in you." And
yeah,
he's like, "I would never do this for anybody else," but he's like, "Let's do it. Let's try it." So he helped me got started. He got a loan for 125,000, and we had to drive all the way to New York City to buy a stump grinder. It's 50
well,
hours of
yeah,
driving. God, it sucked, and we got dump trailers, and he had a skid loader, and we started out small and just kinda just kept growing, and a year or 2 later, I ended up buying Craig out because, like I said, he knew I wanted to be my own boss, and I ended up buying him completely out, so I paid him the 125,000 back completely, and I bought him out, and now it's just me on my own. Um, the RC actually stood for Riley and Craig because his company name is Craig's Plumbing. So it was Riley and Craig, and my last name is Christie, so it's the RC just stuck because it just stayed. So I was like, well, you know, and also a respect thing, you know, I didn't wanna change the name. He helped me get to where I was going, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And he
yeah,
still helps me today, you know, plumbing wise and, also, you know, if I need to vent to somebody, I'll call Craig because he's been through the mill too, you know? Just just good dudes and as you're growing up, don't burn bridges. That you know, if you leave a job, don't burn that bridge. You never know when that guy is going to be able to step up and help you someday, and they will. And the the respect, if you keep that respect and don't burn bridges and explain to them, I want to go on and be bigger and better and do this on my own. Yes, people are going to be, you know, not mad, but disappointed to lose a good worker, and I always am too. But the respect will always be there, and if I can help one of those guys that have helped me, I always do. You know, if you can someday they're gonna need a lending hand, and you can help that out, and what a great feeling it is to be able to help them out or help out a customer that's been awesome to you over the years. Like, you'll get a call in the middle of the night, "Hey, I had a tree fall, it took my power off, I don't care what time of night it is, I'll be right
yeah,
there," you know?
yeah,
"I'm on my way. Tell me what I can do." "Hey, can you come change the light bulb in my barn?" "Absolutely." Can I wait till the weekend?" "Can you swing this motor up this bin motor, like a sturriator, it spreads out all the grain as it goes in from an auger into the bin. Go and hang those for all the old farmers around here, because try carrying that around a bin, and
yeah,
it's super expensive to try to get a crane into some of these places, and
sure,
we can
sure.
do it 30 minutes. So,
Yep, yep, yeah,
yep.
very cool. So 9 years in here, where are you guys at now? Any, goals for the biz? Are you kinda just you like where you're at now? Any future plans? What were the challenges you're facing right now?
The challenges I'm facing right now is finding the really good guys that are, you know, that are super high energy and wanna go. Um, and and like I said, this friend of mine, Logan, my wife is not high energy either. Neither one of these guys are high energy, but I am, and, one good guy, and I'm not bragging on myself, will push other employees up,
Uh-huh,
you know what
uh-huh.
I mean? And one bad guy will drag them down. So you need to watch that. If you get someone on the crew that doesn't work and doesn't wanna put in the effort, and your good guys are working their ass off and they're watching these young guys not work, you gotta be hard on them, and you gotta get them up to your level as quickly as possible, but you gotta make it worth their time too. You gotta pay them right. And as far as where I see myself going, I really like where we're at. I like running the one crew. I would love to find a good cutter, so that that can take some pressure off of me. I'd like to find a couple more really good ground guys that are in it for the long haul. I don't want to train you if you're going to go and leave in a year's time, because you know, it's I'd rather find somebody even if they knew nothing. If they came right out of high school, if they knew nothing, I'd love to just train them up. And I'm okay with that, but as soon as they see how hard a work it is, they're like, "Ah,
Yeah,
this is hard on your body. My body hurts every night." I'm like, "Yeah, so does mine. Grit your teeth and go on. This is what being a man is."
yep, yep.
So, but my end goal, so we've been collecting equipment over, you know, over the course of this time. We've got a almost brand new excavator, an almost brand new dozer, and a semi and a detach. And one of my hobbies is doing dirt work, building pads, and I'd love to build terraces and ponds and do stuff like that. So I've got the equipment, and someday I'd like to transition into dirt work, but not let the tree service go. Either find some young kid that wants to run it, or you know, what would be lovely is my son grows up and he wants to run it. But he's young now. He's 6 years old. We got a while before that ever happens.
Another 2 years before you get them in the chainsaw.
Yeah, yeah. We made him cut and split some firewood with us this morning, and him and my daughter come out and help us. We're trying to slowly get them in, but you got to make it fun for them. Let them drive the Ranger back and forth to out back to the tree pile and back and forth, and they got to enjoy it. And slowly work them in and start training your kids up. But um, I'd love to find some more people, and I'd love to just keep it going, even if someday it's bought out and somebody else runs it, and it gives somebody else that opportunity. That'd be great. Because I can't do this the rest of my life. I already know it. If anyone tells you we're going to be in trees and we're going to cut trees the rest of their life, they're on it. There's no way your body cannot physically do that your entire life.
Yeah, yeah,
So I don't
yeah,
think anyway. Mine's not going to take it.
yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. Very cool. Any nuggets of wisdom for young guys coming up? Advice for them? We always talk about it. We're in this interesting time with like AI and automation taking a lot of actually white collar jobs, and I'm sh- we need more blue collar workers for a long time now, and now you got a lot of people that are actually transitioning their mindset, but it takes, like you're saying, a lot of work ethic. And so, yeah, advice you'd give your kids or any other people growing up, to
I would you need to put your head down and work hard. Don't try to start too soon. And I don't mean that to hold somebody back. Somebody might be ready, right away. But if that's the case, you need to start small. Learn your trade. If you're going to go into a trade, work for somebody first. Learn that trade. Become a master of that trade, so that when you do go in, it's more of a smooth transition. People are going to know your name, um, and that's going to help. Probably the biggest thing that helped me, one of the biggest things, was working for 10 years for somebody else,
yep,
getting your name out there,
yep,
and and like I said, they got to the point where they were requesting my crew to come trim their trees, to come remove their trees. They just and I would build a relationship with everybody I talked to, and I just tried to go the extra mile. And um, when you're working for somebody, l- learn to take an ass chewing here and there. You're gonna get them. There's gonna be good days. There's gonna be bad days. And respect that guy, man. He's uh he's put it all on the line at some point. Maybe he's made it big now, but he's put it all on the line to start this business. And like I said, I got mad respect for those guys that I worked for in the past. Like, I didn't realize how stressful it really was, And uh, as a young guy growing up, you don't need to. Not everybody's going to be a doctor. Not everybody's, going to go on to be a lawyer, anything like that. An astronaut. We do need our blue collar guys, and more than ever, we need them. And trees is a really high energy, very rewarding business, and but it's very hard work. And I don't care which one you do. Like, I've twisted wires before and worked for an electrician, on and off over the years too. And I love that. I would love to be a lineman or any of that stuff, but you just got to give it your all. Um, be open minded, ready to learn all day, every day. And then even when you get to the top, and I'm not saying I'm at the top because I'm definitely not, but be open minded and ready to learn, because like I said, I learn something new every day. Trees are dangerous and do weird stuff, and I've seen them cut one, it be hinged that way, and spin all the way around before it falls, and you're like, "What was that?" You know? Um, but yeah, just be open-minded and work really, really hard. Be on time. For God's sakes, be on time. Be the first one there and the last one to leave, and and put in work. Stay off your damn phone. Um, and just be there, be alert, and be 100%. Give 100% every day, and you will rise through the ranks. No doubt in my mind. It doesn't matter what job I could go be a trash man tomorrow, and I would give it 110% every day. And I don't care if you start me at the bottom, I'm going to find my way to the top. I will claw my way to the top. And that's what any young kid can do. And that's what I did. Like, my dad taught us a really good work ethic when we were young. I mean, working on the farm, we had to remodel the house. He made us tear all the lath and plaster out and all the insulation, and we insulated it, sheetrocked it
yep.
ourselves. We
Awesome.
needed to build a bin. He made us build the bin with him. We tiled, we terraced. I mean, he taught us so much and instilled those good values and work ethic in us that I don't know, I wouldn't have it if it wasn't, for people like him and other bosses that you need to learn from these old guys, and if they give you advice, I would say 99% of the time, an older person, your peers, they're not giving you advice to put you down or whatever. It's gonna help you. So listen to that. There is so many times that I've made mistakes and had to pay for it. And someone told me, Mike first told me, or my dad, or Troy, or Scott were like, "Hey, don't do this. Hey, don't do this." And I think back, you know, after I did that, and I was like, they warned me, and I ignored it, and I had to learn the hard way many times. And I'm just like, okay, so, but no, I'm very grateful for all the job experience I had. But don't jump out there and think you're going to be the best and just soar. You need to work under somebody first and learn the ropes, become what I would say is a master of your trade. Put 5 years in, put 10 years in. I wasn't ready at 5 years. I'll tell you straight up, I was not ready. I'm so glad that I worked for both guys and I put in my 10 years before I started my own. I'd have never made it work if I hadn't have done that. So I started late. I think I started my business when I was, oh, 28 or something like that. So that's kind of later, years for tree guys, I think, but I'm glad I did it that way.
And there was lessons you learned, you're 6, 8, whatever, that were serving you today.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think with today's generation, we're on Instagram and all this stuff, everybody wants to compare themselves and, and have ego and be,
Yep.
that
Instant
guy.
instant gratification is what it is, today, and the dopamine levels you get off of Instagram and shares and likes. Don't pay attention to that stuff. Put your head down and work hard and rise, through the ranks and people are gonna take notice if you just work hard enough. So,
Yep,
and put the hours in.
yep,
Don't be afraid to put the hours in. When your friends are out drinking and partying on Friday night and you're putting in those extra hours because you know you need to, it's gonna be worth it in the end. I
yep,
promise. So,
amazing. Dude, nuggets of wisdom. Riley, awesome to hear your journey. Awesome to have you on. And if people want to find you, you active on Instagram, RC Tree Services,
w
Facebook. What's the best way to find you?
yep, we have an RC Tree Service Facebook page. I think we have this is a life question, but I know for sure, do we have a web page? No, we don't. We just have Facebook. So, like I said, I just keep it simple and most of our business has been generated word of mouth, and we advertise a little bit on Facebook and advertise a little bit locally. But no, it's been great being on here, and I appreciate you guys calling me. You're a heck of a ways away to find us. How
Yeah.
did you find us?
Yeah, I have my assistant kind of look for guys that, have good reviews, do good work, and have a decent amount of experience because I figure those guys will have good stories. And um, yeah, the Midwest guys, you guys got pearls of wisdom as well. Yeah, my grandmother was from Nebraska, that area, and yeah, came over and we still have some furniture from the covered wagon that we brought over, yeah, from Nebraska.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool. So yeah, I appreciate that kind of Midwest, John Wooden was one of my guys, as a coach. Uh, he was the UCLA basketball coach, one of the most winning UCLA basketball coaches from Nebraska as well, that kind of area. And I would read his books growing up, and I'm like, oh, you don't get this wisdom, in California. There's something about,
Yeah.
yeah, that
What would
area.
you say has been what you've gathered out of all of us that you've interviewed?
Gosh, yeah, it's there's and I think it's cool to hear your story. I mean, there's different ways to skin a cat, Um, we've had some young guys that got started just stump grinding, interviewed a young kid the other day, and he would rent the machine on Friday, get to keep it for free all weekend and knock and go door to door saying, "Hey, I'll grind your stuff for like 200 bucks," so he would do it for way cheaper. And then he's posting on TikTok, "I just ground this stump for, 200 bucks," and he's getting rage bait people like in the industry, that are like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you charge that much. So you should charge way more." And he's getting like a million views on TikTok and actually getting business from that. So there's like that spectrum, which is really interesting. And he had no idea what he was doing getting started, and he's grinding stumps, and now he's learning the tree, climbing things slowly but surely, to what you're doing. And but the commonality I would say is guys that are, working hard, have a hard work ethic, and guys, I think everybody loves doing the work, and maybe doesn't love the back end systems things. So for you to have that self awareness to, bring the wife in and know what you're good at, focusing, doing more of what you love doing, less of what you don't like doing, bringing someone in, having that team. Um, I think that's, really important for people. And I think everybody's there, where they're still putting those systems in place to where it's a business and it's not just you, because like I said, if you want to sell the business at some point, you can't sell Riley. But you can sell the systems that are put in place. So if you got 200 reviews and you got your website shows up first and you got some back end systems, where everything's like automated and then now that's something tangible that you can sell or you can hand off to, the next generation, where it's kind of all automated. But that takes, time to build that all out. And
But yeah, and you need to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses, and don't spend hours. My strength is in cutting, cleaning up, dealing with customers. My wife's strength is in the books and the taxes and everything else. Don't spend your time when you're so much more valuable. You could make $500 an hour cutting this tree down. You can pay somebody 25 an hour to do your taxes and your everything else.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
if you spend hours doing this, you could have made this. So know your strengths and your weaknesses, and don't be afraid to hire that person to do that.
Yeah,
Exactly. So,
yeah. And the other thing I see, and I don't necessarily know the right answer here, but you have guys that go out and service a client and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I also need my lawn mowed. Do you know any guys that are good at that?" And they're like, "I can do it, I guess," and they go out
yeah.
and buy a lawnmower and then they're like, "Oh, I also need this done," right? And so they have this customer base and they say, "Okay, well, why don't we just increase the average, lifetime value or whatever you want to call it of this customer, instead of having to go out and do marketing to get new customers." Uh, and then and that's, in some ways, smart business, right? But in some ways it's tough because then they got like all this equipment and then they're, having to become an expert at, a lot of different things. Maybe a little bit harder to manage, in some ways. And then there's, some guys that are just like, "Hey, I'm just gonna do stump grinding, and I'm gonna be the stump grinding guy and I'm gonna get 20 stump grinding machines or whatever, and I'm gonna scale that up." And so I think it's like finding those things that can scale, because sometimes it might be hard to find climbers, and then have like 20 good crews, like that might be hard to do, but maybe like you can get a guy that can mow the lawn, right? Or whatever that might be, that's less skilled or something. But I got some customers that are like, clients of ours that love, lawn care because it's scalable and you don't, it's not as super skilled and it's recurring. And then I got some guys that are like, "Oh, I hate lawn care. Like I like high ticket tree trimming stuff because the average job is 3,000, or whatever. And I don't want to get a job for $100 a week mowing some guy's lawn. So it's, everybody's got like, a different, approach. And I haven't don't have enough data yet to definitively say one is, is better than the other. I think they both kind of work, just as a different, you know, different approach, and you got to have the right team in place and systems, and you can do whatever, $100 a week lawns if you get enough clients. A lot of guys, too, are in the wintertime, they're having to diversify, so they're doing the, snow removal in the winter, or one guy's doing hydraulic servicing for, trucks and different things.
Yeah.
And it's a way for him to diversify because sometimes he says, in the winter especially, it gets slower sometimes for tree care, so he needs multiple streams of income. So, out of kind of necessity for seasonality, a lot of guys are diversifying, even if you wanted to just go deep in one channel, some guys, need that, diversification, out of necessity.
Well, and we do that too. We'll do firewood and snow removal lightly. We don't do a heavy snow removal, but and we'll work on equipment too, like the Snap-on guy's trucks in our shop right now, and it's getting deleted and tuned and had an EGR problem. So we're
Yeah.
trying to diversify too, but at the
Yep.
same time, we focus strictly on the tree service side and try not to get into lawns and stuff. And it helps. You're not necessarily stepping on toes, but those lawn guys, you're doing them a favor because 'cause they're, "Hey, do you know who could mow my lawn?" "Yeah, I know 5 guys that own lawn businesses." You give them a name, and then someday, they're like, "Hey, I need my bushes trimmed." I'm like, "Your lawn guy can do that." If it's too small of a job or whatever, we're X amount to come onto your job site. And like Luke McLarnan's a great, and then Luke will say, "Hey, you need your tree trimmed. This one's cracked. You need to call Riley. He's gonna come over, give you an estimate. You need this one removed, you need this one trimmed." And that's just from the guys mowing the yards or giving
Yeah.
you out. So that networking that you're talking about, that's absolutely correct. And you're working and making really good business decisions with all these other people and just drawing in, connecting with everybody and the circle just goes around. If you're helping them, they're helping you, and it's
Yep.
just wonderful.
Yep. Well, I can tell you're a relationship driven guy. And so I'm sure those guys appreciate you. And yeah, I'm sure you have a cool, network there.
Yep, yep. It's just hometown KMA land. It's our local radio station. We just call it KMA land. I'm sure it's everywhere, but it's just no place like it. It's home for us, and you live here and you eat here, and you growing your family here, and you got to remember that. So try to do the best you can every day.
Amazing. Good stuff. Riley, you're a cool guy. Appreciate you having you on. Yeah, we'll be talking.
Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate you reaching out to us. So hopefully we talk again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. RC Tree Services, guys. Check them out.
See ya.